Back to the Alpha Dog Experience, episode 3, where we break down 10 NFL games, recap the previous week, and try to give you guys some winners. Somebody who did give you guys a ton of winners is back with me again. I wasn't going to have Corey back, but the guy just didn't miss last week, so we had to bring him back. Corey, how we doing?
Alpha, appreciate it. Doing well. Had a nice week. Hope everybody who watched tailed. We had a winning week, couple of plus money plays as well. Looking forward to another fun week 3 in the NFL. I'll tell you what, Alpha, the carnage right now in the league is insane. Absolutely heart-wrenching to see Nick Chubb go down the way he did in the ugly Monday night game. It just seems to never end in the injuries, and we're only on week 3.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. And it's something about the Monday night game. We all know the last 3 Monday nights with Damar Hamlin, Aaron Rodgers, and now with Nick Chubb, it's been an absolute disaster. Hopefully this week we get an easier week on the injury front. But Mr. Corey, are you ready to break down the weekly slate? And we're going to start this one off with the Thursday night football game. Man in the back, let's get the odds for the first one. And there they are, the New York Football Giants, who finally played a half of football in the second half. They looked great in that second half. Daniel Jones came alive. They were able to get the dub, but they were versing a really bad Cardinals team. Corey, what are you thinking about the Thursday night matchup?
Yeah, well, if you guys did follow me, we are on fire with teasers, 5-0 on teasers, and that is where I am going to go here on this Thursday night game. I don't like backing any team giving 10 or more points. The Niners, yeah, they could very well stomp this Giants team and cover easily. I'm sorry to say, Alpha, I'm not sold on that second half performance against the Cardinals. Your Giants were on the verge of being absolutely embarrassed by the Cardinals, who are tanking, by the way. Barkley was just ruled out. We knew that was most likely going to be the case. Matt Breida will be the running back. And the Niners were very familiar with him, considering he was in their backfield not too long ago. The wide receivers are still an issue. So to cover ourselves from this big spread and to get it at essentially the same odds, 6-point teaser here, get the Niners down to -4, the total to over 38.5 at -110. Niners spread is -105. So you're not losing a ton of value. Yeah, you need the total to hit, but I don't see how this total doesn't hit, considering the Niners have hit 30 points in each of their first 2 games. I like the 6-point teaser.
I do like that teaser. I'm actually taking the under in this matchup, under 44. The big injury front on the Giants side is the offensive line. Starting left side tackle, Andrew Thomas, has been ruled out along with Ben Bredesen. So they're missing 2 key starters. And we all know the Giants offensive line is the biggest issue on this team. On the other end, when you have a short week, you really have to limit the playbook. Let's say you have 130 to 150 normal plays in your playbook. You're simplifying it down to 75. It's a short week. You don't really have a lot of time to prepare. They're going to keep it simple, a lot of running the ball on both sides. I think this comfortably goes under 44. All right, let's keep it moving. Man in the back, what do we have for number 2 this week? We have Corey's Tennessee Titans, kind of Corey's Tennessee Titans. I'm not doing that again this week against the Nick Chubbless Browns. I'm hearing reports that new running back's going to be playing in this one. Kareem Hunt, what are you thinking, Corey? What do you think about the Browns and the Titans?
I don't know how Kareem Hunt is going to play in this one. He's been on the street for how long? They didn't sign him in the preseason. He didn't take any snaps, but hey, if you're desperate, you're desperate. You'll throw anybody in. I can go either way on this one. I do like the Titans as a dog for a 3rd straight week. We were on them last week at Corey Covers against the Chargers, and they won outright in overtime. And I think they can win an ugly game. But I do think the better play here is under 39.5. Now, if you do like the Titans +3, this is the type of the game that Mike Vrabel loves to have his guys play in. They're gritty, they're gutsy, they just play tough, hard-nosed football. 9 times out of 10, you will not enjoy watching that type of football, but as long as Tennessee gets the win, Vrabel and his boys don't care. But this is why I like the under a little bit more. These 2 teams are tied, allowing the 3rd fewest rushing yards at 130 a game. And both of these defenses have been rather underrated. Cleveland surprisingly has yet to allow an opponent to take a snap inside their red zone, which I thought was absolutely crazy when I found that stat. I expect these 2 defenses to make it very tough on the offenses, which haven't been great. Deshaun Watson has been absolutely awful. Ryan Tannehill did bounce back against the Chargers, but I think he's going to struggle a little bit against this Browns defense. And, yeah, you mentioned no Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford. I don't know about you, Alpha. I ended up snagging Ford and used a lot of my budget there, but I'm happy with the move. I think he's going to be great, but not this week against the Titans front 7. I'll take the under.
I'm taking the Browns on this one at -3. I'm buying the hook here. I think the Browns' defensive line is going to be too much for the Titans' shaky offensive line. The strength of this Browns team is that defensive line. They should be able to get in the backfield, power the line back, and be able to stop a guy like Derrick Henry, who is banged up. He's coming in questionable. He has a million injuries like he does every season. He's still a beast either way. But when you have guys like Myles Garrett and that defense out there, I do think the Browns do get this done at -3. I'm buying the hook at -120. Let's keep it rolling. Man in the back. What is the next one we have on the slate? And we have the Chargers versus the Vikings. Two extremely disappointing teams. To me, this is the Staley survival game. If the Chargers lose this game, I don't know how you can keep Brandon Staley any longer. I think you have to fire him immediately. Corey, what do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know what's going on with the Chargers and the Vikings. I mean, these are two of the most surprising starts in the NFL. Who saw the Chargers and Vikings 0-2 on their bingo card? I know I certainly didn't, but the Vikings, they don't appear to be as bad as a unit defensively. They did get Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator, who did a pretty nice job containing the Eagles' offense last week, but man, the Vikings they can't find a way to get a win. Meanwhile, the Chargers offense lit up the scoreboard in that Miami thriller in week 1. Week 2, they had Ryan Tannehill, and they didn't have an answer for him in the offense. And neither team can afford to start the year 0-3. I don't know if I will touch this game come Sunday, but, Alpha, since you're forcing me to make a play here, I'm going to bring out the old reliable Tessie the teaser. The Chargers, a 1-point favorite. Give me them at a touchdown favorite at +7. And the total, which is, I think, a little too high, bring it down to 48.5. Take the over on that, and that, my friend, gets you plus money at +100.
I do like it. I do like it. For this one, I'm all over the Chargers. This is a Brandon Staley survival game, like I said earlier. If they lose this game, I do think he gets fired, and I do think this team rallies a bit behind him. They haven't committed a turnover. They've been fantastic. They've been right there on the offensive side. The defense has to get it together and make sure they stay in this game. Justin Herbert and that offense has been absolutely clicking. I think we'll see a big rout by the Chargers this week. They need to have that for Brandon Staley, and I do think that he's going to get their guys ready to go. Quickly, before we move to the next game, I do want to shout out Longball Larry in the chat, filling us up with comments. He is asking us, what do we think about the 49ers -2.5 alt line and the Seahawks money line as a parlay at -140? I'm not huge on the Seahawks this week. We'll get over that game shortly. Corey, what do you think about the Seahawks money line parlayed with the 49ers -2.5 alt line?
I like the Niners -2.5 alt line. We talked about it. I have them in a teaser as well. The Seahawks money line, though, a little suspect. -140. Geno Smith did look good. They had to go in overtime to beat Detroit on the road. If you're feeling the Seahawks, I don't know if I'm as high on them as some are this week, but I do like the Niners -2.5. Maybe you can couple that with another money line.
Yeah, I think there are other better options that we can get into. But let's keep it rolling here, man in the back. What is the next game on the slate? And we have the Patriots versus the Jets. The Jets haven't beaten the Patriots in, it feels like, 378 years. Corey, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, this is a good old-fashioned AFC East rivalry game at MetLife. I'm on the under in this game, but advise to shop around different books to get the best number. The total is at 37, but some have already been dipping down to 36.5. I won't be surprised if it goes down to a full 36. The way I look at this game, it's quite simple. It's Bill Belichick who stymied Jalen Hurts and then Tua Tagovailoa, said his name right, and held them in check. He has to be licking his chops or smelling his fingers, whatever he does on the sidelines. I don't know what the hell that was last week, but he has to be loving this matchup against Zach Wilson, who quite simply just can't play in this league. You feel for him. He's trying his best. He just cannot get it done. I said last week I wasn't sure how the Jets would move the ball against this Dallas defense. They got lucky, a slant pass to Garrett Wilson. He turned on the burners and went 70 yards. But other than that, they did not do much at all, and I expect it to be the same against this Bill Belichick defense, who's looked really good. On the other side, Mac Jones has thrown the ball a lot over the last 2 weeks, but this offense isn't that good either. They have no explosive weapons. Juju Smith-Schuster doesn't scare anybody. Ramondre Stevenson is okay. Zeke Elliott is a shell of himself. He's not really doing much. And against the Jets defense, who held their own against Dak and the Cowboys, I see the Patriots also struggling to move the ball as well. When they do get touchdown drives, it's very methodical. It's got to be precision pinpoint passing for Mac Jones. I think it's going to take a long time for them to score. Give me the under on the road for the Patriots and the Jets. I think the Jets might squeak it out, but I like the under more than anything else.
Yeah, unfortunately, I see it the exact same side you do. So we're either going to be very happy after this game or we're going to be very upset together. I think the under is by far the best play in this one. The Patriots offense is a shell of themselves. They, like you said, don't really have too many weapons. And for the Jets, they need to get back to running the football with Brees Hall. He only had 4 carries last week. For them to be successful, he needs to get the ball a ton of times in this game, and they need to run, which will cause the clock to flow out. I do think the Jets get the win here. I'm going to be honest here. I'm playing the under, but I do think the Jets on the money line is also a good value play at plus 130. I do think they get it done at home. They're going to finally break that curse of not being able to beat the Patriots. And guys, if you want to get all of my NFL plays, UFC plays, baseball plays, college football plays, it's $1 special on SoBet. Tap the QR code, come tap in. There's over 50 handicappers you guys get for that $1 for the first month. It's $1. Come check us out, see what you guys think, and we will win you guys some money. Let's keep it rolling. Man in the back, we have Bills and the Commanders. Commanders, to me, one of the biggest stories of the year. They're actually a decent football team. Corey, what do you think of this matchup?
Decent might be stretching it, beating the Cardinals and the Broncos. Let's see what they do against this Bills team in the next week. If they put up a good fight, I'd be with you on that. But again, I joked with you earlier today saying I was just going to put out all teasers here on the show. This is my third teaser of the show, but I think this might be my favorite one of the week. Bills minus a half point and over 38.5 points for minus 115. Reason for another teaser, not the spread on the Bills, is I already see a lot of people on the Bills, but they got back on track, demolishing the Raiders. Offense looked good. James Cook, another big game. I think he's going to be really exciting to watch. But this Washington defense is decent. I will give you that. They stopped the run relatively well, and they've allowed under 200 yards passing per game. Now, again, they went against Russell Wilson and Joshua Dobbs. I don't know if they're going to be able to contain Josh Allen that well, but Sam Howell did look very good against the Denver Broncos in that second half. He was able to light it up, but this is a road game for the Bills as well. Washington fans, they got to be feeling good. 2-0, tie with the Eagles and Cowboys atop the NFC East. I just like that Allen can keep this game relatively close if needed. I see the Bills winning it, but I don't know if they cover. I'm worried about the backdoor with Howell getting some magic like he did in the second half, so I'm going to go with the teaser.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. And if you take a look at the Commanders' last 5 games, they've actually won 5 straight games. So it's dating back to last season. They've been doing very well. Pretty much a surprise to me, but I'm going to be taking the over in this matchup. You get that over 43.5. Currently, I know the screen says, 43.5. I think we're going to see a ton of points here. If you looked at the Commanders' last game, their offense came alive against Denver. That game ended 35-33. You take a look at the Bills' most recent games, the one against the Raiders they just played, 38-10. We're seeing a lot of points from both these teams. And I do think we're going to see some mistakes by the Washington quarterback in this one, Sam Howell. I think the Bills do get up, and I do think Howell is going to have to try and throw them back in the game, which will cause turnovers, which will lead to a lot of points. Over 43.5, this is one of my best bets on the weekend. Let's keep it rolling. What do we got for the next one? We have the Falcons and the Lions. Both these teams a little surprising this year. Corey, intro us. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I actually like the Falcons getting 3.5 points in this one. After an improbable season kickoff win at Kansas City, the Lions lost a tough one at home against Seattle in overtime. And let's face it, they lost more than just that game, Alpha. David Montgomery out for at least a couple of weeks due to a thigh injury. Amon-Ra St. Brown is dealing with turf toe, which is a nasty injury. Yep. C.J. Gardner-Johnson on the defensive side might be out for the entire year. Justin Houston was placed on the IR. So it's starting to avalanche for this Lions team who has playoff aspirations. I like Atlanta here getting the points with all those injuries to the Lions. Detroit has also had some issues stopping the run. And I think Bijan Robinson has looked every bit of the part of the first-round pick that Atlanta used on him. That run that he made against the Packers, juking out 3 different defenders, was absolutely ridiculous. Atlanta defensively has been sneakily good against the pass, allowing the second fewest yards through the air, only behind the Cowboys. So if Detroit doesn't have St. Brown, Goff is limited to Josh Reynolds, Khalif Reynolds as his go-to weapons on the outside, Jahmyr Gibbs at running back, who selfishly, I hope, has a big game for fantasy purposes. I'm tired of waiting on this. Oh, we're easing him in. He's one of the most explosive players on this offense. Just get him the ball. I do, though, like Atlanta getting more than a field goal. And with the hook, it protects us going through one of those key numbers as well.
Yeah, I see it the same way you do. This Lions team is a little bit disappointing. They were the big favorite to win their division, and I just don't see it that way. I do think Green Bay is still the better team, and the line is indicating here that they don't think the Lions are a huge favorite in this game. As a -3.5, the home team gets 3 points towards the spread as just being the home team. So it's basically a pick 'em is what they're saying. Give me the Falcons on the +3.5. I think this game ends by a field goal either way. Long Ball Larry is in the chat, or Long Money Larry's in the chat saying, I don't trust this game. I don't blame you. It's not, they're both very bad teams, truthfully, but I do think there's still some value on the Falcons at the +3.5. Let's keep it rolling. We just spoke about this other team. Oh, no, that were the Dolphins game. We have the Dolphins and the Broncos in this one. The Finns have looked great. They've been able to keep Tua upright. He has not been getting touched, and that to me has been the difference of this team. Corey, Broncos, Finns, what you got?
Yeah, this might be another one of my top plays of the weekend. The Dolphins offense, as you mentioned, has looked fantastic through the first 2 weeks. And this is a nice matchup for Tua and company against this Broncos defense, who just got torched by Sam Howell, as we mentioned, in the second half in their collapse of a loss at home. Now, Denver has to try and defend Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who should be out of concussion protocol by the time this game starts, down in Miami. So you got a long travel down in front of the Dolphins fans, who are just absolutely itching to see this team after they started off the season 2-0 on the road. Miami has scored 14-plus points in the first half of each of the first 2 games, and that's where I'm going with this game. Take Miami plus 13.5 in the first half. I like that line a lot. They're playing in front of their home crowd, as I mentioned. I think they might put up 21 against Denver in this first and second quarter. I don't know how they don't at least hit the number at 13.5. This might be one of my best plays and favorite plays. It's pretty simple for me.
Shout out producer Bryce. He's a huge Finns fan. He's writing in the chat here, Tua MVP. You know, he's looked like it so far, so I can't blame you for feeling that way. I'm all over the Finns here. They've looked fantastic. And like you said, there are some injuries on the Broncos side. Finns -6.5, definitely all over it here. And like I said earlier, they've been able to keep Tua upright, which they have not done his whole career. When he's been kept upright, he has looked like an MVP caliber quarterback. He has the weapons. The offensive line has been good. I'm all over the Finns. We continue to ride them, -6.5. What do we got next, man, in the back? Steelers versus the Raiders. Raiders look like they're getting some help back. They've had a couple injured pieces. Looking at the injury report, yeah, it looks like they are going to be getting a lot of guys back. The injury report is pretty quiet this week, which is a good thing to see. Corey, what do you think about the Steelers and the Raiders?
Yeah, I think Chandler Jones will be out for this game for the Raiders. It looks like he's dealing with some mental issues, so hopefully he can kind of straighten that out. He posted a wild social media video tagging LeBron James, but
a couple things.
Yeah, so hopefully he gets back on track. But again, this has the makings to being another ugly primetime game. The Steelers' offense looks terrible. They are lucky that they have T.J. Watt leading that defense, because he and that unit won them that game against Cleveland on Monday night.
Yep.
I don't know where the preseason hype around Kenny Pickett came from, but it quickly fizzled. Jaylen Warren might be the Steelers' most explosive player. Najee Harris just doesn't seem to have the it factor that Steelers fans were hoping for. And as for the Raiders, Jimmy G hasn't been great. He's been leading his wideouts in some dangerous routes and catches. Yeah. Devontae Adams just luckily escaped from not getting a concussion. Jacoby Myers, though, does have one. He's questionable to play in this one. So I'm going back to the well, tease the Steelers +8.5, and jack up that total to 51.5. Take the under. I see this being like a 24-21 game, a 2017. I just don't know how these offenses get going. Josh Jacobs has been a big disappointment, has negative rushing yards coming into week 3. And the Steelers defense is pretty legit. I do think Pittsburgh will be in a lot of games solely because of their defense. I don't trust Kenny Pickett leading this offense down the field for a game-winning touchdown or field goal to cover the spread. And I like the total at the over, and the Steelers at +8.5 on a teaser.
I like the under here, under 43. The Steelers are pretty banged up, though. Taking a look at the injury report, we all know Deontay Johnson is not there. He is their top receiver, so that does hurt Kenny Pickett a lot. He was his number one guy. Minkah Fitzpatrick is still questionable. He's the one who had the hit on Nick Chubb. If they miss Minkah, that's a huge loss in that secondary. On the other side, like we said, Chandler Jones is not going to be there, but they should be getting Jacoby Myers back, who was a huge producer for them in week 1. I believe he had 2 touchdowns. So getting him back should help them a lot. I do like the under, though. I do think we're going to see a defensive line battle. The Steelers, they're getting all their points this year from fumble return touchdowns, from defensive scores. And I do think we're going to see a very low scoring game here. Like I said, the under is one of my favorite plays of the week at under 43. Man in the back, what do we got? Eagles and the Bucks. I believe this is the first of the 2 Monday night games, which, by the way, do you like having the 2 Monday night games?
I was going to say, Alpha, I'm not a fan. I don't like it. Maybe if they're 2 good games, but that Saints-Panthers game was absolutely trash.
It was unwatchable.
And then we were watching the Steelers-Browns, okay, AFC rivalry, and then that game was pretty ugly for the most part. And then obviously Nick Chubb going down with that awful injury. Stick to one NFL. Listen, I love nothing more than just parking my butt on the couch and watching football nonstop, but just give me the 1 Monday night game.
Yeah, I feel that. And before we get into the next game, have you seen the matchup we're talking about after this? Speaking about terrible football games, we'll get there in a second. But Corey, we have your Eagles. We all know you're a Titans, Eagles, Rutgers, Manchester United, teams all over the world you're fans of. Eagles, Bucks. What are you thinking in this one?
Yeah, this is a bit of an odd one. The line has dropped the most of any game. This started out as -6.5 for the Eagles. Now it's down to -4.5. But this is now the 3rd week in a row where we've seen the money skewing towards the underdog against the Eagles. A lot of sharp money is on Tampa, driving the line down. I'm going to stay away from the spread. I'm going to take the over at 46. The Eagles have been out-schemed each of the first 2 weeks, and they are 2-0. That's a sign of a good team. The fact that you aren't playing your best football, Jalen Hurts doesn't look like Jalen Hurts of last year. I do think him and the offense will get back on track in this game. They've had 11 days to game plan. Let's face it, you open up a season playing 2 games in a stretch of 4 days. I mean, that is nearly impossible to deal with and look good. I know the bar is ridiculously high, especially here in the Philly area for this Eagles team, but I do like them to recharge and get this offense going. And I think they're going to have to air it out with the Tampa Bay defense being so good stuffing the run. Don't look now, but these 2 teams are 1 and 2 in yards per game allowed on the ground. The Eagles allowing 52 yards per game, and Tampa right behind them at 54. So I don't expect DeAndre Swift to run all over the place like he did against Minnesota and just give inside zone runs play after play after play. I think this is going to be a shootout. Weapons on the perimeter for both teams, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they look really good. And how about Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, the connection with Baker Mayfield? I mean, don't count Baker out. I think he's really taking this second chance, third chance, if you will, to really take it and run and prove that, hey, I can play in this league. I think this game goes over. Philly has been 2-0 in the overs to start the year. Tampa 1-1, but I think these 2 teams are going to end up shooting each other out, and I could expect like a 30-27 game, something in that range. So give me the over.
Yeah, I see it the exact same way you do. Looking at the injury report like we always do, James Bradbury and Reed Blankenship, 2 of the better secondary members of the Eagles, are true questionables. Avonte Maddox is on the IR, their other corner, who is out. Looking at the Bucks, Carlton Davis is questionable. Kaliga Kante's questionable. Butchered his name there. And Servocia Dennis is questionable. No idea who that is, the last one. But they're all defensive players, and I do think this one goes comfortably over the over, like you said. Looking at recent performances, Swift was a monster last week. But like you said, the Bucks are very good at stopping the run. I do think the Eagles will have to air it out, and that's where they're going to be the most successful against this Bucks team. They should be able to pass all day against them. They should be able to go deep on this Bucks team. Give me over 46, another one of my favorite plays of the week. And Corey, we have made it to the absolute worst game of the week. The final game of the week. The NFL wants to insist that we watch terrible primetime games. We either get a matchup like this or we have to watch the Steelers every single week. It's just like last year when they made us watch the Broncos on primetime every single week. Feels like we're in for that again this year. Corey, Rams, Bengals, what you got?
Yeah, well, a gut feeling here. I might go Rams money line. I think Cincinnati's in a lot of trouble. Joe Burrow apparently feels better than he did last week. He's expected to play, but he still has that calf injury that's lingering. Rams, I believe, are plus 124 on the money line. And, you want to sprinkle, I wouldn't blame you there. I might as well. If you're a little nervous about Burrow playing and the Bengals figuring it out, I would say go on the under here. The Cincinnati offense is struggling. They're averaging 13.5 points per game. That's tied for the lowest output along with Las Vegas and Carolina. This offense just is not clicking. Meanwhile, the LA Rams might be one of the biggest surprises. You thought no Cooper Kupp. Oh my goodness, how is this offense going to move? And then you got Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell coming out of nowhere, and Nacua is arguably the best wide receiver in the league right now. Through 2 weeks, he's been putting up ridiculous numbers. No more Cam Akers. They've got Kyron Williams in the backfield, who seems to be like a much better running back for this offense. I like where this Rams team is going. I'm leaning money line, but I could see this going under as well. I think it's around in the mid 40s, is it? 43
and a half.
43 and a half. I could see that, but I think come Sunday, I'm going to stick with my gut and sprinkle on the money line for a dog play.
I like that. I like it. First of all, where did this guy Puka Nacua come from? 25 receptions, 270 yards through 2 games. Unfreaking believable. The guy's been an absolute star. Makes you forget they even have Cooper Kupp on the roster. He's filled in beautifully. That being said, I do like the under here. We've been saying it every single week on the show. Joe Burrow is going to have a lousy year this year. He had a non-contact injury where he's playing behind a shaky offensive line, and he can't move. He can't roll out because of his injury, and that's really limiting this team. He has to sit in the pocket and get absolutely wailed on. They need to rest him. He needs to get fully healthy so he can actually be a little bit more mobile and help this offense, because this team can't do anything with the current state that he's in. I also don't think he's going to be able to give it a go. So the under 43.5 is definitely my play here. I think we see a run game on both sides. We see a ton of handoffs, and the clock will bleed out in this one. Under 43.5, one of my favorite plays. Corey, it's that time. We're going to dive into best bets, but before we do, guys, we're brought to you again by SoBet. It's just $1 for a 1-month trial to check out all the plays. Over 50 handicappers, tap the link. It's literally $1. You guys spend that on a lot worse stuff than that. So come check it out, find out some new cappers, and have some fun. Let's dive into best bets. Corey, give us your best 3 bets of the week.
Yeah, I like the Miami first half total over 13.5 points. This offense is going to be playing in front of their home crowd for the first time in 3 weeks. I think that place is going to be electric down in Miami. Give me them scoring easily 14 against this Denver defense. Second, I like the Niners 6-point teaser that we kicked off the show with tomorrow night. You get the Niners at -4 and the total at 38.5, and you take the over at 38.5, and that's just -110 opposed to the -105 that you get with the Niners at -10. So I would take that as well. And then my third play that I really like, I think that Patriots-Jets game, I think that's just going to be a defensive slugfest. I don't see a lot of points being scored. If the Jets somehow get a competent quarterback, I think they can still somehow sneak away into a wild card. I don't think they win the division now with the Bills, but if they bring in Joe Flacco, if they bring in some type of veteran QB, I think they've got a chance to sneak in. You also have to deal with Miami, of course, but I do like the under in that game. So those are my top 3 plays.
I like the under in that one too. That one makes my top 3. So the under 43.5 in the Jets versus Patriots, one of my favorite plays. Then we're also taking the Jets Patriots under 37. My under 43.5 is the Rams Bengals, my second favorite play of the week. Third and final, Fins -6.5. Shout out producer Bryce, who is a huge Fins fan. But Corey, that'll do it for our best bets. We got to get out of here. Producer Bryce is pitching for the Savannah Bananas tonight, so he's got a big night. Yes, he's on the Savannah Bananas. Big star there. Look him up. But, Corey, we will be back next Wednesday to break it down, hopefully with a good recap with a lot of wins. Guys, remember, you can get all my plays, get Corey's plays, join SoBet. It's just $1 for the first month. You can spend that in a lot worse ways. Find a new capper. Over 50 cappers there. Come have some fun, and we'll be back next week.